Have you ever gotten to a point where you just literally couldn't continue on the path you're on? Whether it's a job or a home project or just life in general, you've hit a wall and physically your body just won't allow you to keep going. This is what we call burnout. And even though it can happen to anyone, the risk of it happening to someone with ADHD increases significantly. And if it's not caught early enough, it can lead to some real long-term damage. In this video, I'm going to break down burnout, how it affects adults with ADHD, and what we can do to avoid it. If you're new here, my name's Chris, I'm a creator, and I help adults with ADHD learn the tools to get shit done. So what is burnout? Put simply, burnout is when you are overcommitted, overextended, overwhelmed, and exhausted by the situation that you're in. And it especially affects people with ADHD. Burnout is caused by a massively heavy workload, feeling out of control, lack of support by other people, physical and emotional exhaustion, demotivation, and it can lead to a lot of physical ailments like headaches, migraines. And the reason why a lot of people who have ADHD often work themselves to burnout is because of the traits that we have with ADHD. We can overextend ourselves, we struggle with boundaries, and we can overcommit to things because we genuinely believe that we can handle the tasks that we are being given in the moment. So we take on all of this commitment because we think that we can handle it. What happens is that because we've already committed to it, we actually end up neglecting our own personal needs, and that mentally, physically exhausts us. Burnout is actually a under-discussed symptom of ADHD. Because it's not part of the official definition, it often goes overlooked. The reality is that ADHD and burnout often coexist together. So a few years ago, I decided to make a feature-length animated movie, and I overcommitted to it. And I spent all of my free time making and developing this movie. And I did it for such a long time, and I took 0 breaks, I took 0 days off, and spent probably a good 15 hours a day. Over time, not only was my work becoming completely ineffective because my brain was exhausted, but I actually really suffered mentally. My mental exhaustion was at such a level that my sleep was impacted. All I could think about was making this movie, and my stress level was through the roof. And it took me a long time to really get back to a good baseline again. It caused a lot of stress in my life. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because burnout can have a real impact long term. And it's taken me a long time to get out of that mindset, to get out of that stress and to get rid of that I experienced during that time. Even when we're working on tasks that we enjoy and that hold our interest, when we do it without breaks, this leads to a lot of mental exhaustion. It wears us out. And because we can also have problems with sleep, that can compound everything, where we wake up even more tired, and then we have to go into this overextended version of ourselves. And it can make it very hard to recharge our batteries. Long term, burnout can have massively lasting consequences. Even after we've stopped that overcommitment, it can still stick around and lead us to constantly feel exhausted. Our brains are constantly running on empty. It's like we're trying to drive a car with a completely empty fuel tank, and it's just constantly burning on fumes. So some of the things that can help with recovering from burnout is making sure that we exercise regularly, making sure that our diet is proper, ensuring that we have adequate sleep each night, making sure that we're taking breaks and vacations. It's really important to give our brain time to heal, that space to be able to stop self-regulating and just be able to be free and enjoy itself. And breaks for people with ADHD can look different to neurotypical breaks. So sometimes we don't actually want to do nothing, we want to do something. So make sure that you're taking the time to recognize the type of break that you personally need. So for example, if you're someone that does enjoy going to the beach and switching your mind off, great. But if you're someone who wants to go to the woods and do some hiking, then that's also good. But recognizing the type of break that you need in order to make sure your brain is recharged fully is really crucial. Whatever it is that you need for your recharging. So burnout is not something that just happens in isolation and you can have a little break away and it's fine. Burnout is something that can impact you long term. So it's really important to get ahead of it rather than let it happen and then try to recover from it. So what are the things that we can do to stop burnout from happening? Well, when we're feeling stressed, we can start to take a step back and have some alone time. You know, there's a huge difference between simply knowing that burnout is happening and actually acting on it. So it's really important to develop that self-awareness to make sure that you're understanding when you are tired and recognizing that and then acting on it, not just recognizing it and carrying on. Making sure that you listen to your body, recognize those signs of burnout, the irritability or trouble sleeping, and make sure that you're responding accordingly. Another thing is taking the time to analyze and take a look at what we are committing to and what is something that we are completely unable to do. Distinguish between the two. It's important to understand the actual time commitments that you have. If you're planning out your time correctly, then you should be able to time track your tasks to really get a realistic understanding of what you have committed to and what you're able to take on in the future. So make sure you assess your current commitments. Make sure you're prioritizing your self-care above anything else, any tasks. No task is worth risking your mental health for. So making sure that you're prioritizing your workload correctly and you're spending time on the important tasks rather than the smaller, less important tasks. And if there is a buildup of smaller, unimportant tasks, make sure that you're putting them to one side, you're leaving them and you're not committing to doing them. And if need be, delegate them to someone else or turn around to your boss or to the person that gave them to you and being realistic about it and having that hard conversation with them and saying to them, look, this is something that I cannot handle right now because I have more important things to work on. What can we do about this? Because approaching it, making sure you're addressing that overwhelm in the moment stops it from developing into burnout long term. You know, us ADHDers can often prioritize based on our interest, which can lead to over prioritizing and neglecting other essential tasks. So that can lead to getting in that burnout cycle. So it's really important that we set boundaries. Make sure that we never immediately agree to a task. Always take the time to consider what that task is and whether it is able to fit in with your current workload. Make sure that you're using your time management tools, plan your week, and really prioritize the tasks and allocate the right time to them rather than just saying yes to everything and trying to cram it in an already full calendar. You know, another thing that can lead to burnout is perfectionism. One of my previous videos, I talk a lot about perfectionism, but in a nutshell, this drive to attain perfection is completely unrealistic and it's actually unattainable. So making sure that we're recognizing that and starting to get comfortable being imperfect, because the more that we strive for perfection all the time, the more mental exhaustion that we put on ourselves, which leads to the overwhelm, which leads to burnout. Make sure that you're developing healthy boundaries. Make sure you're setting cutoff times for work and know when to say no. Another thing is making sure that your sleep hygiene is at a really high level, creating a good sleep environment and making sure that you are doing all the right things to make sure that you're sleeping, no screen time before bed, making sure that you're switching off, ensuring that it's a dark room and you're doing all of the good sleep hygiene practices to make sure that your rest is good really, really helps in getting ahead of the overwhelm and therefore the burnout. Another thing is making sure that you're knowing your self-worth. Recognize your personal limits helps to avoid pushing yourself to burnout. Make sure you're prioritizing yourself over pleasing other people. This doesn't mean that you're just saying no to anyone who asks anything from you, but make sure that if you know your own limits, if you're able to recognize what you are able to take on and what you're not able to take on, it gives you a much stronger position to be able to actually realistically turn around and say, hey, this is not something that I can realistically do right now. But also make sure that you're taking micro breaks, making sure that when you're working, even if you're hyper-focused, making sure that you do take a break every 45 minutes to an hour to make sure your brain is just having that breathing space to stop that overwhelm and to stop that exhaustion from creeping up on you. Remember, ADHD comes with a lot of benefits. We can have a lot of hyper-focus. The problem is that we are not superhuman. So we cannot run on turbo all the time. We need to make sure that we're prioritizing ourselves above anything else. So if you want to learn more tools that I work with all of my Ultra Normal members, if you want to join us and help build yourself a thriving ADHD life too, then I invite you to join me on my free Focus Bootcamp, where I show you the systems that help me and other members learn to thrive with their ADHD. It's free, and I'll drop you the link in the description down below. So let me know, have you ever experienced burnout? If so, what did you use to help manage that overwhelm and help recover from that burnout? Thank you as always for watching, and with that, I will see you in the next video.